This episode of Gaze at the National Parks, the podcast, is sponsored by Moon Travel Guides. Moon Travel is the travel guidebook publisher for ethical travel. Don't spend months trying to build the perfect trip when you can do it all with Moon. Whether you are taking a short trip, exploring a European city, heading to a national park, or traveling to South America, Asia, or beyond, make sure to pack a Moon Travel Guide with you.
As the leaves change and the seasons shift, what's on your travel bucket list this fall?
Maybe you're planning a road trip through picturesque New England towns. The crispness in the air, the sights, sounds, and smells of fall. Can you feel it?
Or perhaps you're not ready to let go of summer yet, so your journeys are taking you south to a vibrant city like New Orleans, or to a national park like Saguaro or Big Bend.
Whether the open road is calling your name or the coziness of a campsite is this fall, Moon Travel has you covered.
Moon Travel is the travel guidebook publisher for ethical travel.
Don't spend months trying to build the perfect trip when you can do it all with Moon.
Whether you are camping in the wilderness, hiking the trails of a national park, or heading to a foreign destination, make sure to pack a Moon Travel Guide with you.
For a limited time, our listeners can get 20% off their order of the Moon USA National Parks book by author Becky Lomax by using code GAZE when you shop through Hachette Book Group using the e-link in our show notes.
That's code GAZE, G-A-Z-E, for 20% off your copy of Moon USA National Parks. Head to our show notes to check it out and see Moon's entire collection of national parks guides.
For more information and to purchase additional Moon travel guides, be sure to visit moon.com. Hello, and welcome to Trail Mix by Gaze at the National Parks, the podcast. I'm Dusty. While our long-format episodes explore one hiking trail in one national park, one park at a time, Trail Mix is the short-format episode of our show. It's where we get to explore topics we didn't get to cover in our long-format episodes, including history, science, environmental justice, and also interviews. Today's Trail Mix is a very special interview with Hilary Nangle, the author of Maine, Coastal Maine, and Acadia National Park, Seaside Towns, Fall Foliage, Cycling and Paddling, and Best of Acadia. Each of these titles is published by Moon Travel. You might remember our interview with Hilary from Season 4, where we talked all about Acadia National Park and its incredible network of trails, from Mount Desert Island to the Scoodic Peninsula to Isle La Haute. This interview was such a special one for us because in some ways, Acadia feels like our home park, even though it's a good 8 hours away from where we are. And thankfully for us, on a trip this past spring, we were fortunate enough to get to meet Hilary in person and explore some of the tucked away parts of Acadia National Park. In this very special episode of Trail Mix, we not only get to interview Hilary again and in person, we get to do it as we hike.
I think you have a total elevation gain of maybe 165 feet on it.
So this is Ship's Harbor.
Yes.
Tell us about why you love this hike.
Well, I like it because it's a good hike for people who aren't avid hikers, aren't used to hiking, or who have maybe a little mobility issue, but they can still hike, or they're hiking with young kids. So that's one of the reasons, because it's not a demanding trail, but it's a good trail for all ages and all people. You know, it is not wheelchair accessible by any means, or a stroller, but you know, if you can move, you can probably make it on this trail.
And we're in the western part of the park.
Yeah, we're on the west side, also known as the quiet side.
I feel like the trails over here, maybe not necessarily this trail as we're starting it, feel like, compared to the east side, just a little bit more rugged. There's a little bit more work that needs to happen as opposed to maybe some of the things on the east side. The network is a little bigger on the east side. How did that kind of come to be?
Well, obviously, you know, the east side is the central park part of the park, right? You've got the Park Loop Road going through, the carriage roads, and a lot of hiking trails over there. So that's the hub of the park. That's where most people concentrate. This side doesn't get as much visitation. I mean, you can still be on a trail here in a July and August day. It's going to be busy. But there are also places you can sneak away on this side. I feel like you're hiking without crowds and without people and kind of feel alone if you want to.
Yeah.
Here it is. what is it, like 8:30? 9
9
in the
yeah.
morning.
On Memorial Day weekend.
On Memorial Day weekend. This is a great time to get out and hike.
Yeah.
Right? I've gone by this trail and Wonderland, which is a very similar trail, different habitat a little bit. But I've gone by in the middle of the day, and the cars are all over the road, and there are a lot of people. But if you come at early in the morning or late in the afternoon, it's pretty quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. Early and often, always. Yeah. We were saying in the car on the way down that I think more than any other park that I can think of, and I think that especially true, especially here on the west side, the community is enmeshed with the park in a lot of ways. And we talked about this a little last night. There's sort of this like fluid boundary line in a lot of places in Acadia. But, some other parks we threw out, like Cuyahoga Valley, Shenandoah, those are also parks where the community is right at the doorstep. Like, more so in other parks. Like, Zion has a park community in Springdale right outside of it. But Acadia, people live here. Like, it is literally their backyard.
Well, it was carved from their backyards.
Right.
It was, unlike a lot of other national parks, Acadia was created by private donation of land, as opposed to, here's a big chunk, we'll go this way, you can go either way. As opposed to government had the land and set it aside, right? This was carved, so, people who lived here would give part of their woodlot maybe. Wealthy people who summered here might give some land they own. You can walk into the park from any town, which makes it a really wonderfully accessible park.
I'm already a little obsessed with this trail. It's so lovely and
it's
so green. There's just there's like forest on either side, and the floor is like covered in beautiful moss and also like pieces of trees that have fallen.
A lot of spruce needles.
Something we saw a lot yesterday was the birch trees and how they like when a birch tree dies and it falls over, it rots from the inside, but like the outside of it stays.
That's a lot of trees do that. It's not just birch.
Really?
Yeah. We've had some big old maples. That's a ticked off chipmunk in there. Telling everybody else, people, for somebody who's their first trip to a park and they're never really done a lot of hiking or anything, and they've maybe got the kids with them, what a wonderful introduction this is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very flat.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of very long, very epic hiking days, but we always try to get in some trails that are easier for people who are coming with a family of 6 people who are we do want to prioritize getting out and introducing hiking or incorporating hiking in some way, but we don't have 7 hours on a trail with a group of 6 people.
Yeah.
Of varying ages.
And a lot of people, when they come to parks, especially this day and age, they're very time pressed.
Right.
And they're trying to get this done and this done. And a park like Acadia, they're trying to drive the Park Loop Road, get on a hike, bike the carriage roads, make sure they see Thunder Hole, get to the Abbey Museum. And okay, this is the hike. It's a lovely, and it's, when you get to the point where you come out on the ledges, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Well, I feel like, too, in that case, especially with being time-pressed, when you're able to, especially in your books, provide that sort of, these are some things, if you have this much time in the park. These are some things, if you have this much time in the park. You kind of allot for people to be able to have an experience that will be comfortable for them in the time that they have, and then they can kind of pick and choose if they want to do something or don't, based off of suggestions of someone who lives basically here and knows the park like the back of their hand, which I think is so great.
Yeah, and it's, I don't live on island. There are a lot of little rules in Maine. You got to make sure you identify yourself properly. I've lived in Maine since I was a kid, but I am not a native Mainer, and I would never call myself one. I'm from away, and I always will be from away. And people who live on island, that's another whole group. And then the island communities have their own little ways of sorting. You kind of figure out what your place is.
So by
it's
from
not
away,
a bad thing. It's just the way it is.
From away, you just mean just not on islands, correct?
Well, from away means you don't live in Maine. You weren't born in Maine. You don't you don't have to sit in a local cemetery.
Got it. But you grew up here, even though you weren't born here.
Yeah.
Okay. From away. That's so interesting.
Well, there's
Well, there's that musical, Come From Away.
Right. Well, it's the same concept.
Same
Okay, because that was in Gander, Newfoundland, right? And that's the same idea. Same people are from away, because you get a lot of people who come in and they visit and they leave.
Sure.
But maybe some of them settle. But they're from away, so they don't know how things were done.
Right.
Or how things are done.
Right.
I love this trail.
It's it's not difficult.
No.
But it's beautiful.
So green. A very well-maintained trail.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at like 4.5 to 5 feet across, and it's like a maintained gravel trail.
Yeah. It's really different from other parks and other trails, I feel like. I wouldn't, having done so much and seen so much of Acadia and hiked so many of the trails here, this is one of those little guys we haven't gotten to until now. But I don't think I would have ever thought, oh, we're in Acadia right now. Like, it could be anywhere in a lot of ways. But, like, I feel like this sort of reminds me of being around Lake McDonald in some ways, and Glacier. And I love that about the parks. You can kind of find yourself anywhere, even though it's very uniquely a space unto itself.
So yes, this is the interpretive trail. I was wondering, it starts in this area. So it actually forms a figure 8. So we're going to go this way, so we come out on the higher end of the ledges.
Okay.
Shall we go this way?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
A little violet here.
Those are so pretty when they're just all in bloom on the floor of the forest area.
So do you feel like you're still discovering new parts of Acadia?
Oh, yeah, all the time. There are so many trails, and there are a lot of people who have, going and working at finding what they call the lost trails of Acadia. There's a book on that. When you go back to the Gilded Age, there are a lot more trails, and a lot of them have grown over. But there are people who have gone around and found some of them.
And when did the park start to work towards the process of renaming Ford's original trail names? Because we've seen a lot of that signage, and that's definitely in our 3 times here. I think the first time we've seen it, so I'd imagine it's pretty recent, yeah?
It's relatively recent.
Yeah.
It's been in this century, let's put it that
Okay.
way. Going back to the original, trying to find and go back. And also honor a lot of the indigenous heritage
Right.
here, because this land was part of the Wabanaki, which are the combined Micmac, Maliseet, Penobscot, and Passamaquoddy people of the Dawn, because you're as far east as you're going to get. Of course, you can get a little further east in Maine, but it is the Dawn land. But you can you're beginning to see some of the pink granite. If you look,
Yeah, I was noticing it yesterday. It's everywhere.
yeah. Well, if you drive over into Seal Harbor and Northeast Harbor, many of the driveways have crushed pink granite.
Oh.
Yeah. If you can afford it, you have it. It's nice. It looks lovely.
I do love a good boardwalk moment.
I know. When you're over at the Schoodic section of the park, which is, so Acadia has 3 sections. Mount Desert Island, the Schoodic, which is accessible off Idaho by boat, which is kind of their back country section. There's a limited number of people allowed. There are only 5 campsites on island. You bring everything and then you take it all with you. And then there is the Schoodic section, which is the only mainland section of Acadia. It's a bit further north and east. Schoodic is distinguished by Schoodic Point. Beautiful point that comes all pink granite. It's absolutely beautiful there. Lovely drive-through, some nice hiking, some nice bike trails. And you can get there from Bar Harbor by ferry. If you want to take a day trip over, you can arrange in advance to have a bike rental and then bike through that section of the park. It's lovely. Nice way to spend a day without driving all the way around.
Yeah, I think when we did it, we did drive all the way around. It was our second time to Acadia, and we'd not done the Schoodic the first time. We were like, we got to get over there and see what's over there.
It is. It's a little, it's a lot quieter than here. It's getting more discovered now that there are a few more campgrounds over there, and the park has a campground, and there's a couple of RV campgrounds now that are on that section area. But it's a far quieter area, and you get a different feeling of the Maine coast when you're there than when you're on Mount Desert Island.
I totally agree with you. Yes, especially since you're going out to like Schoodic Point there.
Yeah. And the thing about going out to Schoodic Point is you have the great views of Mount Desert Island when you're looking back on it, right? The rounded peak.
Right, I think as much as there's probably a push to obviously, especially for real big enthusiasts of the parks to try to do the big trails, to do the Beehive, to, see Cadillac Mountain sunrise, to do all that. I feel like, especially upon multiple visits here, it's nice to find the kind of the off the beaten path things, and really our second trip was a lot of that, and we're kind of continuing that now, which I find to be just so interesting because it's the overlooked sections that, I don't know, there's just something magical about them. Like the West Side Trails, Beach and Bernard and Mansell, those were just some really great hikes that when we were there, it didn't seem that anyone else was, we were kind of the solo hikers on the trail. Even right now, it feels like it's just so quiet here, which it just brings you back to the solitude and the beauty of nature.
Now, people complain that, the parks are too busy. It's like, well, they're busy if you're going to go to the place everybody goes.
Right.
But if you take 5 minutes and find a ranger, stop at the visitor center, talk to somebody and say, I'd like to go somewhere quieter. What trails are less utilized? They'll be happy to recommend them to you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are over this side. You may not have the big, dramatic views that you get on the other side, but you have a different experience. I mean, the perpendicular trail is an architectural wonder of trail building. It's lined with coping stones. A friend of mine counted, I think there are 1,000 steps on it. And it's beautiful. It zigzags up Mansell, right up the face. Perpendicular trail kind of gives you a hint. And then, there's a lot of trails over in that area that you can connect to from there. And there you can come in from different parking lots. So if one parking lot is too full, go to another or go to another. And you'll find one that doesn't have as many cars and you can get in. Because the other plus of that is the reason those parking lots are busy is because that's one place the Island Explorer bus service doesn't go.
Got it.
So even if you've got what looks like, oh my goodness, they're like the one trailhead, I think it takes maybe 6 cars. And you're like, oh, it's going to be busy. No. You can access so much from there. You're not getting people just riding the bus and coming in, getting dropped off.
Well, I think that's the one thing, too, for the both of us. And I'm sure anybody that comes to the park that's always been so interesting is the interconnected network and how you can do so many things. Like, there's so many ways to get to one space. Even yesterday when we had hiked Flying Mountain, when we did that, I was like, oh, we can do Acadia Mountain from here. If we want, you could just tack on what you want, or you can just end where you feel like you need to. And that was perfect. Like, we didn't have the time to get to Acadia Mountain too, but it was perfect to just be able to do that loop and to be able to experience what we were experiencing in a compressed amount of time. Like, there's so many ways to do Acadia.
Yes. And one of the great things about the bus service, which runs from like mid-June into October, is that you can stay, I'm going to start here, and just have a copy of that map or have it on your phone of where the bus picks up, and you can just take whatever trails you feel like, end up, and the bus is going to be there if you're coming out of the trail spot.
Well, I feel like that also adds to, you think about a lot of the parks that have a tram or a bus service. You think about Zion, you think about Yosemite, and I feel like that just adds to the sustainability factor here. And it also probably makes it a lot easier for people to just do things, get to places without feeling like a car is needed.
We've made it to the shore.
It's beautiful. This is a great place for tide pooling, too, if you've got little kids or curious adults. Tide pooling is great. So they have a sign here that says who the tenants are. You can kind of look for an urchin, periwinkles, barnacles, rock crabs, mussels.
Blue mussels, yeah.
Whelks, tortoiseshell, limpets. Oh, a crumb of bread sponge. That's a new one to me. But yeah, it's just look, don't touch. But
very cool.
It's lovely.
So it's a rocky shore, but it's all pink granite rock.
Yeah. There it is. It's just beautiful when the light hits it right. So if you come like later in the afternoon when the sun is a little lower in the sky, it's just beautiful, But this is where I usually tell people, just go out, pick a rock, contemplate life, existence.
If you've been wanting to learn a new language because maybe you're headed out on an international trip, or maybe you're hiking in another country or backpacking overseas, then the time is now, and Rosetta Stone is just for you. Rosetta Stone has been the expert in language learning for 30 years and is the most trusted language learning program. Rosetta Stone teaches through immersion. Instead of memorizing and drilling vocabulary words, you learn by matching audio from native speakers to visuals, reading stories, participating in dialogues, and other practical language skills to fast track your ability to communicate fluently. And Rosetta Stone users love the speech recognition feature. This will definitely fast track your language acquisition. In fact, Rosetta Stone has the best speech recognition technology of any app out there. Its patented speech recognition engine is called True Accent, and it's built right into the program. And as you practice speaking, you'll get feedback on how well you're pronouncing words in real time. The voice recognition technology matches your audio to audio from native speakers, so you can really hone your pronunciations. Also, it's so convenient. You can access Rosetta Stone on a desktop or as an app. And the lessons can be downloaded offline too. The audio companion is also great for commuting or for when you go outside in nature and take those long walks. So don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. And for a very limited time, our listeners here at Gaze at the National Parks can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's right. That is 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. And you can redeem your 50% off your lifetime membership at rosettastone.com/today. That's rosettastone.com/TODAY. And it's true. Today is the best day to start learning a new language. Hi, everybody. It's Dusty. I just wanted to take a second to talk to you about Masterclass and why it's something that I sincerely love and that I think you'll love too. I love learning. I am a lifelong learner, and I love the chance to learn new things and also expand on things I'm already familiar with. And Masterclass has been such a great place for me to do just that. One class on Masterclass that I have found absolutely invaluable is Jessica Krebs' class on wilderness survival. She covers everything from what to pack, how to ration food, how to be in touch with your body and what it's communicating to you when you're hiking. But one thing I have already gotten into practice for myself is her guidance on what to do if you're hiking and running low on water, which happens to me all the time because I drink water constantly. She shares that the first choice to make is to not snack or eat anything in a moment like this because digestion requires water. So eat the snack that you're thinking about when you're back near a water source. That will help you from getting dehydrated. This has been so helpful for me, and all of the lessons in her course can be applied to all kinds of hiking. And now here is your chance to boost your confidence and find other practical takeaways that you can apply to your life and work with Masterclass. It has over 180 instructors in 11 different categories. Whether you're watching Masterclass on TV, listening in audio mode, in the app, or on their site, their quality speaks for itself. It's like Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors. You can learn how to negotiate a raise with Chris Voss. You can become a better actor with Natalie Portman. You can manage your relationships with Esther Perel, or you can level up your authentic communication with Robin Roberts. There are so many classes that I love and so many that I think you'll love too. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. But right now, our listeners can get an additional 15% off their annual memberships at masterclass.com/gaze. And you can get 15% off right now for an annual membership at masterclass.com/gaze. And again, that's masterclass.com/GAZE. We love it, and we think you'll love it too.
Ship Harbor Trail, and right now we're sitting on the pink granite ledges right at the mouth of Ship Harbor. As you can see, there's a little channel that goes in, and it's a very protected little harbor. So a great place, to take a boat in a storm if you know what the tides are and the depths are and all that. But how it got its name. So, the story begins in 1741 in Northern Ireland, when a group of Scots-Irish, facing starvation from the potato famine and disgruntled by being unable to own land, hold office, and all the things they were discriminated against, even marry, decided to follow God's grand design and head to the American colonies. The ship, the Grand Design, embarked from Ireland for Philadelphia. The 200 to 300-ton ship carried about 200 passengers. Most were wealthy or distinguished in some manner, along with their servants and possessions. And a cargo of Irish lace, of course, because you can't go anywhere without your Irish lace, right?
I feel like that's an ad coming in.
Irish lace. Never leave home without it.
Yes. So a fierce autumn storm forced the ship into the pink granite ledges here at Ship Harbor. And all were able to escape to the shore. And the land was true wilderness at that point. They salvaged what they could from the ship and hastened to make shelter. When no aid arrived, the captain and 100 hardy men set out to get to the mainland. None was ever heard from again. Although the survivors were able to barter a bit with Native Americans, the language differences made it impossible to truly explain their situation and needs. Eventually, they sent letters with Native Americans, and after a winter during which many died, rescue came from Warren, a town in Midcoast, Maine. Great story, huh? No. It's not exactly true. This version of the shipwreck happened, but was shared by historian Cyrus Eaton in Warren's the town where they went, 1853 Town Annals, and has been repeated since. What actually happened is the ship, named the Martha and Eliza, not the Grand Design, was wrecked on Mount Desert Island, but further down east on the island off Grand Manan, Canada, which is a huge island off that way. Now, Captain Rowan, who was a total scoundrel, and his crew fled on a longboat, leaving the passengers to fend for themselves. After a few weeks of excessive drinking, the captain and guys returned to plunder what was left aboard. The castaways bartered all their possessions, including their clothes, in payment for rescue. Unfortunately, some women and men were off foraging, so only 48 survivors were brought to Cushing, another mid-coast town, which is adjacent to Warren, and left all but naked, basically just in their underclothes, because they bartered everything else away.
They still have their Irish lace.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. It's probably quite tattered at this point, but by spring, the survivors of those, the ones that were left behind, were only women. That's when a Passamaquoddy hunting party took letters from the women, paddled roughly 100 miles to St. George in Midcoast, Maine, and delivered them. A rescue was organized for the 10 women and infant child left behind. And the evil Captain Rowan? He went on to become governor of North Carolina in 1758. Isn't it a great story?
Ain't that just politics?
That is a great story. That is a great story.
I was researching it. I'm like, there's something that's not ringing true. So I just kept researching and digging, and then I found the other story. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right? I'm fascinated by what happens. I mean, I guess they talk about this in history classes, right? But what happens versus what gets talked about versus what gets passed down versus what gets written down.
Yes. It's like when you're a kid playing telephone.
Yeah, literally. Everything's
watered down,
Yeah.
Everything changes. So, name of the ship, the place it was wrecked, how everything. Everything was just...
Well, obviously the first story is so great and full of mystery.
Yeah.
And they were never heard of again. Yeah. And it's such a campfire story. Mm-hmm. Also, we're kind of sitting on rocks right now, in a campfire, circle. There's no campfire, but we're in a circle.
Just the fire of love and friendship.
Right. This has been Gaze at the National Parks, the podcast, and we're here to remind you to hike early and hike often, and that adventure is always out there. Gaze at the National Parks was created and is hosted by us, Dustin, Ballard, and Michael Ryan. To see images from this episode, follow our Instagram at Gaze at the National Parks. To contact us, email us at gazeatthenationalparks@gmail.com. And to find out more about the parks visited on this show, visit our website, gazeatthenationalparks.com. That's Gaze, G-A-Z-E. All original artwork featured on Instagram, on our website, and in the Gaze shop is by Michael Ryan. All original music was written and performed by Dave Seaman and Mariella Klinger, with Sean Sklea Rios on guitar. Our music producer is Skyler Fortgang. This episode was edited by me, Dustin Ballard. We would also like to acknowledge that while recording this episode, that we were on the traditional and stolen lands of the Lenape people, also known as Middlesex County, New Jersey.